I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, Holdheads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host,
Kateline.
And we are here to discuss a brand new Dateline. It was another Blaine joint. Still no word from the dog. This episode was, well, hang on. First, I got to do some things before I get your thoughts, Kate. For instance, it's called Deadly Entanglement.
Deadly Entanglement.
Right off the bat, stop using the word deadly, dudes.
It's at least 3 times a season now.
Yeah. Now, one of them we did with Deadly was from the vault, but I'm still like, they use Deadly all the time.
As if we don't know that someone's going to be dead.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like the entanglement speaks to potential threesome, I guess. Anyway, but you know what? I'm not here to correct it because I've got I don't have the love for this episode to come up with an alt title. Let's put it that way. It's like, you wanted to use Deadly Entanglement? That's fine. But here's the IMDb. A middle school art teacher is shot to death during an apparent break-in at the home that she shared with her husband. New evidence and testimonies poke holes in the story of a harmonious three-way affair between the couple and a mutual friend. Hosted by Blaine. Kate, what'd you think of this episode?
Well, so that description says new evidence. Does that mean they already did this episode years ago and it's an update?
No, I don't think so. I think it might be what some people find in a trash later, is what they're referring to. But look, I could be wrong. This could be a rehash. But it's all Blaine, though. We don't see anybody else, and she's only been around
That's true.
for years, so.
I didn't love this episode, but it's not because of Blaine. She did what she could.
She did, and she had some fun delivery on some stuff.
Desiree loved cars.
And again, I think they're giving her the worst stories.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you call it? Some hazing? They're like hazing the newbie. And it sucks because I know she's wanting to get her claws into something good, but...
This is not that story.
Yeah, she was at that haunted house in Texas, and then now she's at a graveyard in snow for one little shot just to get that friggin' dolphin headstone in there. You're right, they're putting her through her paces.
Yeah.
The guy killed someone in Cabo San Lucas, that's mine.
All right, well, let's dive into this story. It begins in Yakima County, Washington, April 7th, 2013. A dude named Scott Sunford calls in for a welfare check, so that's still 911, right? Is this technically a 911 call?
I think so.
Because it's recorded, too, so that's kind of another...
My wife was home, and I have...
Okay, did somebody break into the residence?
I don't know.
Some alarms at his house had triggered, and he had missed a call from his wife, I think, perhaps, and he was trying to contact her, but she wasn't answering. He's driving home worried, and he's on the phone with the cops, like, I don't know what's up with my wife. You got to get somebody there now. I had 3 alarms, and they all got triggered. We need some help. What are you thinking in this moment?
I'm thinking, is this maybe a case where the husband didn't do it?
Already you're thinking that.
Yeah, it just seems, genuine.
Okay, yeah. It's funny, Scott, as you'll come to find out, Holtheads, he doesn't do any favors for himself when it comes to, taking suspicion away.
No.
The cops show up for the welfare check, and they see a guy pointing a headlight at the front door, pointing a gun at it.
Yes.
And they think that this is already, that some cops have beat them to it. But who is this guy?
Well, it's...
looking real tough.
It's Scott. And so this was the very... This was suspicious because it's but at the same time it's not. He knows there's a crime scene in there and he doesn't want to mess it up. It's like he listens to our pod.
You know what? I guess. But he said, I don't know what I'm going to find in there.
What are you doing with the gun? Did you go inside the house and check on your wife? He says, no, I don't know what I'm going to find in there.
So to me, it wasn't, I don't want to disturb a potential crime scene. It was, I'm scared and I don't want to be, I don't know. Look, when somebody carries a gun on them at all times, I just feel like this is their dream scenario and he missed his chance. This is a big dude, right?
That's true.
He's a big dude.
What is the gun for then?
What the hell's the gun for? This is your dream. You can go in there and fire that thing, empty the chamber or whatever.
It's your house, your gun. If there's someone in there potentially robbing you or hurting your wife, you can murder them.
Yeah. And instead he's like, I don't know what's going on there. You do it.
So
I've made the call, y'all.
Does that make him, does that make him seem more or less suspicious? It just makes him seem like a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, that was my confirmation of that, especially later when he tries to defend it. You're right, though. I'm not sure it makes me lean one way or another, but I'm feeling an innocent thing because he called in the thing and he's out there waiting. I don't know. I mean, I know it's bad to run in there because then you'd want to, do CPR and stuff, and then all of a sudden you got blood all over you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'm thinking he's a little bit of a puss.
He's well trained. He has served in combat, so he would be able to handle the situation, in our opinion.
The real cops roll in, and right away there's blood everywhere. And they see a naked woman with like a leg cast on, brutally shot to death. And that is Desiree Sunford, Scott's wife. She is R.I.P.
You could see a lot of trauma, a lot of blood, and it was obvious that she was deceased.
Some gruesome crime scene photos, I thought.
A little gruesome for Dateline.
For Dateline. Now, I'm baiting you because I want you to talk about what you sent me last night from People Investigates Kate. Tell the Holt heads about the crime scene photo that you saw last night.
It was an absolutely useless photo. The entire screen was blurred out, and it just said, actual crime scene photo.
Like, are we supposed to be impressed that you got the photo? It doesn't matter. It could be nothing. It's too blurry.
And
like, the whole thing is blurred.
Why blur all of it? Just blur a wound.
Look, if you have to in this day and age, you got to blur the whole body, fine. We need something in focus just so we can relate to the image. Mm-hmm. In the video, you'll see it. But I don't know, I was dying laughing because it was like, actual crime scene photo.
Great.
We swear it is.
Great.
You'll never know. Ugh.
Well, this crime scene photo, I think they could show it because it was really just her legs.
Yeah, that's true. But she did have a giant cast on one of them, right?
She did.
All right, well, let's talk about Desiree, because now we talked to her friend Kayla, or Desiree. I might be calling her Des, because that's what they called her as well.
Yep.
And obviously, sometimes I call her Desiree, but that's this lady's fault.
You gotta be.
Desiree was an art teacher at a middle school.
Yep, cool.
And she was also a gearhead.
Yep.
She had this dope Chevy Chevelle that she got for, I think it was a birthday one year.
Turn the key.
And when she was younger than that, she had restored cars with her dad. Mm-hmm. And when he passed away, she wanted to keep enjoying cars in his honor. And Car Kate is loving Des.
Pretty cool.
I don't usually like muscle cars, but I do like Chevelles, and it was pretty cool that a teenager would be whipping a Chevelle in high school. Like, driving that into the student parking lot is pretty badass. And then when she got older, she got into motorcycles, and she was a Harley girl. And I also don't like Harleys, but I appreciate that she's into cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's like, motorcycles look cool and I love them in movies. And as I've said before, if we see somebody on their own hog on a Dateline, they're usually a good person. I said that early on in our days, but I think it still stands. Mm-hmm. But like motorcycles, I'm against just in general because they're unsafe.
Yeah.
But like seeing them and stuff, I'm like, that makes you cooler. It does. I'll admit it. And even she even had like a permit to carry. She's rocking a gun and she's a friggin' art teacher. Right?
A gun-toting, Harley-riding art teacher.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Things I don't party with, but I'm looking at her and I'm going, this is pretty cool art teacher.
And then
this is pretty cool.
Her friends who she worked with, they were saying the same thing, that she was like the cool teacher, where kids would go and feel safe and hang out in her room. And, when the classic, like, eat lunch with the teacher who's cool. I never did it.
You know what? I was going to say, this really outed Blaine as, I think, a bit of a dork in high school.
Every school has a cool teacher where you just want to go and sit and eat your lunch or just go and sit and just talk. It sounds like Desiree.
She was one of them.
Was the cool teacher.
Yep.
Look, maybe my high school was bigger or something. I was never eating lunch with teachers. That's crazy talk.
No, I mean,
what?
I think it was just for kids who maybe didn't have friends to sit with in the cafeteria or kids who wanted to escape some kind of situation. I definitely had friends who would dine with the cool teacher.
Yeah, I don't know. We had like stacked or staggered lunches too, so it's not like all the teachers ate at the same time either.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll give her a pass. But that's how her friend at school was relating her. Like the kids liked her and she's cool. And I get that. And I don't think I've ever disliked an art teacher. I mean, I fucking loved art in school.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never disliked any of my art teachers. They are all cool.
Even my buddy's mom was our art teacher, Mrs. Cupford. She was cool as hell too. I mean, we got busted drinking and smoking all the time, so she wasn't happy with us. But I still thought she was cool.
Good, honey.
Okay, so she meets Scott Sunford in high school, and I think even her friend says from the beginning, Desiree's two things were friggin' Scott and that
Chevelle.
Shit. Scott and that Chevelle. They started dating and met very young in high school. And then right after graduation, where's he go off to? Because they tied the knot right away because he's got somewhere to be.
He's got to go overseas.
Yup.
He's a GI.
Yep, military man. Yeah. Again, I got my side eye is still up though at that crime scene performance of his.
Why would you wait? Like, why? What would stop you? Like, what if she was still alive?
So this guy's in the military. He's at least 6'2".
He's big.
So they get married right away. He goes off overseas and she gets her degree. She like finishes college and that's when she gets the teacher gig and she's loving life. And like everybody's talking about her and her motorcycle.
Desiree was... Are we allowed to cuss?
Sure.
Okay.
Give me what you feel.
She was just a badass.
We see some fun shots of her on her hog with like a motorcycle jacket on and stuff. Like I was definitely pro Desiree. Like I was liking her vibe.
Yeah, she's cool.
Oh, and they got a home together in the country. Got a dog named Ada.
The couple adopted a dog and named her Ada.
Clearly told it to us because that was the old crime scene. But where was Ada night of?
They never...
We don't hear the outcome of Ada.
They never said.
And Ada came out barking. Des came out right behind her, and he shot her.
You think if he had showed up to the house and had the door open and was holding the gun, that Ada would have come out and been standing there with him.
He didn't open the door. He didn't do any of that. He literally didn't go up to it, I don't think. Because when the cop went in, that's when he saw the body right there in the living room. Right?
Yeah.
But it is curious where... But you know what I was thinking about this? The way the missus feels about engines that backfire, if somebody shot a gun, I don't know if she'd be there. I don't think she'd be in protection mode. I think she'd be in flight mode.
You think she'd be under a bed or something?
Or gone out of there. But I don't know. I mean, look, I love you, Stink. I don't want you to take a bullet for me. I'll be taking that bullet for you.
But maybe Ada was used to it because of the sound of the motorcycles.
Great point. Okay, well, it is a mystery. I don't know what happened to Ada. I hope she lived a long and full life and did not feel any regret for not being able to protect her owner. But what's wild is, so Scott goes down to talk to the cops and they're interrogating him. And we get the scoop on why there was a board, like their back door was boarded up and that was torn off. That's what it was. Scott had gone to the back of the house and saw that the temporary board that was over the windows was torn off. That's when he went back to the car and was like, help me, click, help me. 5 days earlier, they had a burglary where they, like, a laptop, iPad stolen, the windows busted out of the back door. I mean, and I'll give Scott credit for this. That was 5 days previously, right? In that time, he had multiple security cams up and running, attached to apps on his phone in that house. Right?
And to calm Desiree's fears, they installed an alarm system.
But yeah, they got freaking robbed 5 days earlier. So that's like, I wonder if those are connected. Now, we're looking at Scott in the interrogation. We got a nice little bird's eye view cam of him. What was going on in the back of Scott's head? Did he have a little ponytail? Or was that like leftover from him combing it over and slicking it? Did this jump out at you?
No, I didn't notice.
There's a little thing back there and I just wanted to know.
A little rat tail?
Speaking of hair on the head, I had to call in the authorities, Kate. Mustache police are making an appearance tonight, okay? Because I got 2 problems that we'll point out when they come.
Kurt.
What's up?
Did you ever party with a rat tail?
Of course. I mean, as a child, because my mom was cutting my hair and stuff. Rat tail or like just the mullet, the racing stripes. I had all the good stuff.
Wow.
You kidding? Yeah.
That's so Midwest.
What? I think it's so cool and so Kurt Money. But you were just a rat tail in general?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody with hair like that, I'll just say.
Well, okay, but again, I was very young, and it was in the 80s, early 90s, when that was the style, dog. What's up? Not for you, huh?
No.
So the deputies at the scene of the crime, though, they're suspicious of Scott because he looks like a little puss. Like, you got a gun. Why don't you go in there? And this is funny because when the detectives are grilling him, he goes, it's not that I was afraid to go in. I mean, I'd take on 100 people for my wife.
It's not that I was afraid of anybody being in there. Yeah, I'll take on 100 people for her. That's fine.
No, you wouldn't, dude.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
You didn't.
You didn't want to take on a mystery number. You said I'm out. Like, so forget 100 people. Like, anyway, he's trying to cover up because he's like, I'm Mr. Military, and they talk about how, because the cops are all like, he was a little too chill. We see this all the time. He's not emotional about it. And they ask him about it, and he's like, well, the military says I'm what they call mentally resilient.
Yeah.
Okay, slow clap.
Well, according to the military, I'm what they call mentally resilient. They said I deal with things quite well.
But then, the thing about how people grieve in different ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I honestly think I would be doing the same thing as Scott. I'm pretty stoic.
Yeah.
That's all that government training.
Well, there's a point later at the funeral where he's smiling and stuff, and people are questioning that. And I'm like, laughter is a part of an escape for bad times like this. Like, I've been given a hard time about that.
People make jokes at funerals.
Yeah.
Sometimes the eulogy itself has some light moments that makes the crowd laugh. It's part of grief. It's I went to a funeral once and I met some friends in the parking lot and I made some kind of joke. And my one friend was like, Kate, stop. That's so inappropriate. And I was like, damn, okay. So we go in and we go down the receiving line and I get to my friend the funeral was for her mother. I get to my friend and the first thing she does is crack a joke. And I'm like, thank you. Tell that to Sourpuss over here.
And he's on his phone, smoking a cigarette outside with a smile on his face.
So this is my first mustache police. Beep, beep, sound the alarm. The detective on this case, who's now retired, so I have a feeling it's because he's a little rusty. I call him Lopside Larry. Did you see how crooked his mustache was? The guy with the stash, the old guy.
I don't think I noticed, but now I'm looking at yours, and I don't know if it's the lighting, but it looks a little crooked.
Uh-oh. I mean, yeah, I'm really asking for it here, aren't I? But I really tried to clean this up for that purpose. I don't know. Look, I'll freeze at a level angle. Future Kurt, come in here. What's the verdict? Perfect.
I think your mustache looks good regardless of whether or not it's even.
Thank you.
It's very thick.
Sweet. I love that. This guy, I felt bad for him. It was just like he left a little too long over here. It was like this was on its way to being a handlebar, and this one was right here. So that's number one. You're busted, but I'm not mad at him for it. My second one, down the road, unforgivable. But we'll get to it. Another thing that the cops are really suspicious about is he wasn't at home the night before.
He tells the cops that he was at his friend's house. And they're like, okay. They're like, who's your friend? He's like, Paige. And they're like, oh, it's a woman. Okay. Is she just a friend or is there something else there? And he's like, oh, she's a friend of both of ours. Longtime friend.
Did your wife know that you were there? No, she didn't.
The red flags are just piling up on this guy at this point.
It is.
He says no, but he implies that like that it wouldn't be unusual because they're all friends. And it's like, no.
Yeah, this is Suspicious Town for sure. This is where I'm like, okay, tell us more about this Paige person. Because then he does say, when they keep pressing him, it's like, okay, we were intimate. We used to be intimate. We met a few years ago, but then she met my wife and then they were intimate. And then it was, does he introduce the throuple to this at this point? Or is that more Paige's thing?
I think that's Paige's thing.
Yeah, but according to Scott, Paige has slept with his wife and him, and everybody's cool with everything.
Right. And immediately I'm thinking, well, that can't be true, and Des isn't alive to verify it, so you can say whatever to make yourself look better.
Yeah.
But then later, we do learn that it was true through text messages.
Well, half of it was true, in that Desiree and Paige had slept together more than once. That was true. But the other question mark, I feel.
I would just assume that the other stuff is true. Because if they were all sleeping in the same bed, things would happen.
But when they asked Scott about the relationship, he's like, I don't want to go there because it's kind of rude. Which I think is funny. It's like, well, you're suspected of murder.
Yeah,
so
maybe go there.
Did you have a sexual relationship with Paige?
You know, I shouldn't go there because it's kind of rude. But, Des didn't want me to say anything to anybody.
Yeah, open the gates a little. But he's like, my wife did have a relationship with her. Like, she didn't want me to tell anybody. And when we talk to her friends, they've never heard of Paige, and they've never heard of this throuple situation.
Kayla hadn't heard of Paige either.
Never heard of her name before.
And now this is where my alarms are going like crazy. Because, Kate, you've said to me in the past, no matter how important it is that a secret stay between like a spouse or like a significant other, that she's always telling at least 2 girlfriends.
Always.
According to you.
Always.
And not one of them knew about this. So that's why I'm going, this kind of sounds like BS.
Yes.
Right?
But I think Des might have been embarrassed to tell her girlfriends because she probably didn't want them to be judging.
Okay. So you could see her keeping that to herself?
Yeah. I think so, especially because she's an art teacher at a middle school, and it's like...
Oh, okay. No, you're right, because that could get her fired in this world, somehow. That's absolutely true. Okay, I get that. We've just had this before where the guy is like, Ma, she was cool with it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, she's dead, though. Darn it. Can't ask her.
Yeah, and so initially I thought he was lying, of course, but...
Yeah.
Do you think your wife had any issues with that?
It was her idea, in a way.
While he's in there, they get all the stuff from Scott. They get DNA. They check the bottom of his shoes. He literally puts it up on the table. They've got DNA under Desiree's fingernails. They've got a potential footprint in blood by her. So they get all this stuff from Scott. And when he throws his shoes up, it reminds me, there is an FF that we'll do on the Patreon. There's some famous, hilarious parts that the FF Reddit is always laughing about. And one of them is, those those damn black shoes.
Then I saw the black shoes. The goddamn black shoes!
You don't know what that is yet, Kate, but once you see that FF, you're going to be cracking up. So it's a little tease. A little tease for future fun. Join it! Link in the description. Okay. All the friends are also suspicious of Scott because he didn't go in the house, right? Like, because they all talk about how he's different since he got back from Iraq.
That's called PTSD.
Yeah. There's a name for that thing. So one of them thought it was okay that he didn't go in because he was reserved or whatever. But the friends at this point are going, all right, something's up with him. We don't know what. This is also when it's revealed that Desiree had cheated on Scott before they got married. The friends also didn't know about this, but this is another thing they're kicking around of like why would she be murdered?
Right.
Like who would want to kill her?
I mean, who hates an art teacher? It's an elective.
They're done with Scott for now. They're definitely still got their eye on him. They're like, there's something up there, but we got to talk to Paige. Let's try and get her down here. And Paige does a move that she apparently does with all the men in her life. And she says, I don't have any gas money. You're going to have to come to me.
Paige said she didn't have money for gas. So detectives drove almost 2 hours to her house.
And the cops literally make the trip, a 2-hour trip, Kate, and talk to Paige Blades, which is like a Mortal Kombat character's name or something.
There's no way that's her real last name.
Paige Blades. You think it's fake?
That can't be. It cannot be real.
So they go talk to her. What are your thoughts on Paige in this moment? Because she's got answers. The cops are like, they're a little too clean.
It's almost too clean. It seems like rehearsed.
She confirms what Scott said. She was actually living with them for a time, and that she and Des were intimate, and that she and Scott were also intimate, and that...
Which she was very upfront about.
Very upfront, and that everybody was cool. And was she pregnant during that interview?
You get a tip that Paige was pregnant with Scott's baby when the murder happened.
That definitely would be a motive to get Desiree out of the picture.
Most importantly, she says it was an amicable split. We're still good. We're still friends. I still care about her. And the cops straight up say to her in this moment, we don't believe you. It's too clean. And I'm going, cops, but when it's not clean enough, you're mad. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. What do you think here, Kate? I feel like no matter what she said, they were going to be like,
You sure about that? Yeah, it's tough. I was believing it because it just seemed like, I actually don't know why I was believing it. But I was.
Same here. I think I believe Paige. I mean, we might not believe her name, but I pretty much believe her when she says stuff, I feel.
Yeah, which, we'll get into later, but...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we agree.
Yeah. Word. I was wondering about that. Were you waiting for...
Yeah.
You were like, this guy's gonna... Nope. All right, so now it's time for a funeral. Blaine was loving the fact that they brought the motorcycle in, huh? They had the motorcycle in the church. Blaine was like, for real?
That was cool.
Her Harley in there and...
Inside the church?
Yeah.
They read this poem called The Dash. Now, they talked about it like it was a famous poem. Myself, I've never heard of it. I Googled it. It's a real thing. Do you remember the basic premise of the Dash? Have you heard of this before?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, like the premise of the poem is that you're born and then you die and then in the middle is the dash. And that's what you want to focus on, which is a good thing here because she was murdered. But I don't think they made it clear enough in the Dateline. The poem is literally about the dash that's on a gravestone that says like 1982-2013.
Did you feel that she lived that dash to the fullest?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's good stuff. Like, let's talk about the things that happened in the literal... I don't know. This is fun word stuff I like.
I thought...
Are you pro this, Kate?
I thought maybe they were talking about, like, the dashboard of a car. But that's Car Kate.
Yeah, that's Car Kate. She's such a gearhead.
She's like, any reference, it's gotta be a car.
Yeah. This is where Scott's outside smoking and laughing. And this was wild. They didn't spend enough time on this, but Lopside Larry is saying that we heard from a guy at, like, a Harley store. A female employee said that Scott was down on his luck, asked for a hug, and then later asked for her number.
He asked for a hug, which is kind of normal and, need a little emotional support. But then he asked her out to dinner.
Like on a date.
Yeah.
How gross is this?
It's gross.
How gross is this?
It's gross. It's weird. It's creepy dude behavior.
Yeah. What a scumbag to be like, can I get a hug?
Can I get a hug?
Ew, that is so disgusting. And then it was followed up with, can I also get your number? It's like, dude. It's not making me think he's a killer, but it's just more proof that I just don't care for Scott. I think Scott's a dud.
Well,
right?
Most men
are. Hey, Kate, what's your quote that's going to be on a shirt one day?
Men equal trash?
Yep, and it's going to be emoji of a man, ! And then a little trash bin. It's going to be great. I'm going to rock it too. Okay, so the results are in on the DNA. We haven't got digital stuff yet, but DNA is not Scott's. It's not Scott's footprint, and his phone was not there. So this is where the cops are like, they still don't buy it 100%, but they've got to admit it might not have been Scott. And this is when Blaine says the thing about the stack of shiny pennies. Did you like this business?
I don't remember that.
It's like you've got a lot of shiny pennies, but they're not adding up to much at this point.
Like there are all these elements that could be good clues, but then you find out, no, those aren't quarters or silver dollars. They're pennies. Okay. Anyway, Blaine, I liked it. Okay. But so, yeah, I mean, it sounded like it's not Scott, and his phone wasn't in the area. Or they also looked at, like, security cams and stuff. Nothing on there that was suspicious, like at gas stations around. So now, pretty much all the focus goes to Paige. And Paige is like, well, you know what? My ex-boyfriend hated Des and hated Scott. And they're like, okay, who's this? She says, Dylan Williams. They were like, all right, well, let's talk to this Dylan guy. And he kind of looks good for it because he's already killed somebody before.
He did time earlier for kind of a similar thing,
right?
He
didn't do any time. It was ruled justified homicide.
Oh, okay.
But two guys came to beat him up, he says, and he shot one of them. And it looked like a good shooting, as they would say.
I mean, right? That is what Scott should have done.
Exactly. It's kind of like Dylan, like that's what he was waiting for, and he was ready to do it. He was ready to, right? I mean, that's exactly what Scott should have done. So they talked to him. He had 2 guns that were registered in his name, but they don't match the bullets. The DNA doesn't match, and also his alibi checks out. Wait, okay. God, I don't know what to do about this pregnancy thing, because now it says that Dylan asked for a paternity test.
So
this was weird.
When Paige and Dylan were dating, she got pregnant, but they, I think, had already broken up by the time the kid was born, and Dylan found out about Scott and Des and wanted her to get a paternity test because he wasn't convinced.
When Paige gave birth toward the end of the year, Dylan asked for a paternity test. It showed the baby was his, not Scott's.
Do you have to give a paternity test if someone asks for one? Could she have said, like, you, Dylan, or what?
Well, I think maybe if it comes to, like, child support, you'd want to do it.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, the way Paige told it, especially at the beginning, it sounds like she wanted it to be Scott's, though.
Well, it sounds like she hates Dylan, so maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe that's why Dylan hates Scott, because it's like, she's likes you so much more, she wants you to be the dad to my son. So anyway, kid turns out to be Dylan's. So, but that's important for the case, because that means that this baby situation has nothing to do with the murder, or at least it shouldn't.
So in the end, Paige's baby didn't matter to the case.
This is when the digital evidence comes in, and this is when they're like, Paige Blades, you better get in here again. Techspert Kate, do you remember what comes back with the digital evidence?
Oh, yeah. This is where they learn about what really happened between Paige and Des and Scott. And we see back and forth with Paige and Des talking about her moving in, living with them. Then we see evidence that the two of them had been intimate.
Yeah.
And then
but
it kind of turns. And eventually, in these texts, we glean that Des isn't happy with Paige living there still. And eventually they throw her out.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like it was only for a few weeks. They show the messages, but like we know this for sure. Desiree did not know that Scott and Paige had ever done anything. She was not aware of the boot knocking because she says, to be honest, I do not like the idea of you guys ever being together. And Paige even says, don't worry, that's never happened and it never will. I promise, bestie. And then not a few weeks later, Desiree's like, can you move out? I want to be with my husband. And Paige's response is fucking catty. She goes, well, it sounds like you guys got a problem with your relationship.
Yeah, the problem is you, Paige.
Yeah, but not according to Paige. And Paige even said, and they've got the proof, is that she said, you know, real talk, Des, I think if you died for some reason, I'd be the chosen one, unquote. That she says, I'd be the chosen one.
I'm fairly convinced that in the event of your demise, I would be the chosen one.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this is pretty suspicious, huh? It
is.
If you ever died,
I would take your place.
And Desiree's like, take a hike. And Paige says, yeah, that's good. Actually, you know, I've been wanting to get you out of my life anyway. And then as Blaine says, she was cool with ask it and said earlier, but she says words we cannot say on TV.
And then go on to call her some names that I can't repeat on TV.
So now the case starts to go cold. And the cops admit that because it's like it's been over a year at this point. And nothing's doing, like nobody's matching the stuff. None of the guns match. Paige is involved. They're feeling it. They're like, Paige has got to be involved somehow. And that's until 14 months after the murder when the cops get an anonymous call. And this anonymous caller says, I know who killed Des. His name is Marty Grismer. Goodbye. Then hangs up.
And that's it. No other details.
No other details. It's just a name that had never come up in the investigation before.
The case would have never gone anywhere had this not happened.
Yeah, I think that's an important fact to remember later. Is that this would still be a cold case had this anonymous caller not said, Marty Grismer did it, goodbye. These poor anonymous callers, they always think that they're going to be able to slip by. This was one good bomb the show had, right? They're like, well, we got to figure out who this caller is. Where'd this name come from? And so they do their digging, and this was obviously a piece of cake because they fly right over it. Bottom line is, they found who the caller was, and it turned out to be friggin' Paige. Paige was the anonymous caller. Their number one suspect.
Who was it?
It was Paige Blade.
You've not spoken to her in months, but now suddenly she's saying she knows who the killer is.
I guess it had been weighing on her for those 16 months.
Well, no, she says that it wasn't until a year later that she found this out.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
which sounds reasonable.
I love that if you're making the call from your cell phone or a landline at all, it is traceable.
Yeah.
The only way it's not is if you buy a burner and then throw it out right after you use it.
Yeah.
But they're going to find you.
Yeah. Was it *69? Is that the callback one? Is that what they did?
Yeah.
They were like, okay, she hung up, but luckily it was a cell phone, so this will be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
They call back right away, and it's like, damn it.
Paige here.
Well, I really appreciate you coming forward with this information.
They bring Paige down. They're like, all right, well, what is this scoop about? And she says that a little over a year, she was talking to Marty, and Marty was like, Marty friggin' loved her, and she was like, he's my plaything, basically. Because he was like, she said savior, but it's sugar daddy. He pays my insurance bills. He pays for my groceries sometimes. He bought me a new car with cash. Like, all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this Marty, he's just obsessed with me, okay? And he told me that he had gone in there, made it look like a burglary, but he knew where the key was. I assume because he had found out from Paige, right?
Right. Because he had never been in there, but he knew from Paige, since she lived there, how, I guess, I don't know. At this point, it's like, was Paige telling him the layout of the house in great detail because she wanted him to go in there and murder for her?
Well, yeah, because according to Paige, Marty does this all on his own because he's crazy about her, but so crazy about her that the cops have a hard time wrapping their heads around this, and I did too.
I mean, just to make sure I understand, he believed that, well, you were pregnant. At that time, you thought it was Scott's baby. He believed it was Scott's baby.
But according to Paige, Marty killed Desiree because he thought that the baby that Paige was pregnant with was Scott's. And so he was going to kill her to like clear the runway.
Right.
And be like, get in there, Paige. And then it turns out it wasn't that baby. And then it turns out that when Paige is finding this out from Marty, at this point, she's not talking to Scott either. Scott's got a new girlfriend.
Yeah, they're completely out of the picture. Like, Scott has moved on.
Yeah.
And Paige, I'm wondering at this point what Paige is thinking, hearing this from Marty. It's got to be, if she didn't tell him to do this, she's probably like, dude, what the f***?
Yeah, and I think that what made her decide to call the cops immediately after he told her this is that when she goes, but Marty, Scott and I don't talk anymore. He's with somebody else. And he goes, oh, you want me to kill her like I did the last one?
Insane.
This is when the suspicion is heavy duty. Like, even if Marty pulled the trigger, Paige, you've got to be involved. Because why else would this guy do this?
He asked me, do you want me to take care of her like I did the last one?
Before they bring Marty in, they convince Paige to do something that I hate, even if it works out. They convince her to wear a wire and do a sting op at a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Tell us about this. You know how I feel about this. It's never good, even when it is good.
Well, this wasn't good. He was not giving her anything, and she was fishing hard to get him to say that he did it.
She really was. Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he clearly knew what was up.
He knew because then he said, like, we could hang out later when I'd have to strip search you. And I think at first she was like, haha, you mean like sexy?
Yeah.
Like, we're not. And he's like, no, because of a wire.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's like, because he's not saying a damn thing. He's literally saying, I don't know anything. I don't have anything. She goes,
in your house where you know that nobody is listening?
I have to strip you down first, yeah.
Strip me down first?
Gotta make sure you got nothing on you, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
He doesn't mean so they could have sex. He means so that he knows you're not wearing a wire. But at first it sounds like she thinks he's flirting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm mad at the cops. They felt like Paige didn't do a good enough job, was the vibe I was getting.
Maybe he caught a glimpse of somebody, or Paige was hinky about how she was trying to ask him.
From what we heard, I thought she was doing as good a job as possible in this scenario.
Totally.
Because she had just gotten this call from Marty the week before that was like, hey, I did murder. And so now it's all of a sudden, let's go get Starbucks now, right? Like, I think she did what she could.
I agree.
And let's just say this, okay, no spoilers, but Marty looks wise. Was a straight up dud. Did you see the full shot of him out in the parking lot at this? It looked like Jared Fogle.
Yes.
That was his body type, right?
Marty is, oh God.
A dork. A straight up
creepy dork.
Yeah. Yeah. What a sap. Like, of course, that's why Paige is going around. I got this guy wrapped around my little finger. Oh, and I forgot. He's the one I need to bust for his mustache because he's got a Hitler stash. Kate, what was up with his Hitler stash? You didn't see that?
I didn't see that as a Hitler stash. Isn't he blonde?
Wait. Yeah, but Hitler is when you go down from the nose, right? It's just this little bit.
Okay, I guess I thought that was like the lighting.
You know, he is blonde, but I'm telling you, look, I mean, I know you weren't having it with the AC with the grays, so maybe I just got a real problem with blondes. Maybe I'm blonde blind. I'm gonna send you a screenshot later, but I was looking at that wedding photo. I swear he's got the side shaved, and there are only 3 people in the world that can get away with a Hitler stash. Can you name all 3, Kate?
1, Hitler.
Bingo. Nailed it.
2, Charlie Chaplin.
Nailed it. What about the 3rd one, Kate? This one's still living.
3.
Still living.
Can you give me a hint?
Yes. He does not rock it anymore. That's a very bad hint. The next one I think is going to give it away when I say it's not a white guy.
Okay.
Come on, think.
A black guy who used to have a Hitler stash.
But he is so powerful and famous and awesome. We just had to roll with it. Does that help?
No, it doesn't help.
Michael Jordan.
I forgot about that.
But you agree with me, right? He used to have a Hitler stash, straight up.
I guess.
Like during his prime and stuff. Like in the Hanes commercials, I think he did.
I guess.
No. Yeah, you got to get it. These are facts.
Kurt.
Yeah.
You're blonde.
Sure.
But you don't party with blondes.
I party with blondes. I can't be that selective, Kate. It's not like I'm not turning blondes down left and right. Bonnie's a blonde, okay? Can't go wrong there.
So then they start digging into Marty.
Yep, here we go.
And they find out that he's actually married and a stepfather.
Yep.
And old Paige, pregnant Paige, was the best man at his wedding.
Yes. Now, the reveal of this entire photo was wild. I mean, they really did some sneaky shit with this photo in this episode, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to meet Marty's wife in a second, and that's when they do the reveal. But there's this wedding photo. Like, every picture we see of Paige, she's in a black shirt with a black tie. I thought she was a hostess.
Totally.
Didn't you think they worked at a restaurant?
Like a catering thing. And the first time we see it, it's Paige and Marty only.
Yep.
And we can't even see that she's pregnant.
No.
Then they go wider and we see like, oh, she's actually pregnant in that photo.
She's super pregnant. Yeah.
Then they go even wider and it's like, no, this is a wedding photo and Marty is marrying someone else and Paige is there and it's so weird. And we find out just how weird when we meet Marty's wife.
Yes. Poor Beth. And Beth is sitting with Blaine like they're talking. And the scoop she gives is like, you're almost in Valerie territory, girl. For what the signs you did not listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Because they date for 4 months. And then it's like, okay, let's get married. But my best friend is this girl named Paige. I pay a lot of her bills. I bought her a car straight up. She's my best man and she wants to dress like me. I hope that's cool with you, wife-to-be. That was weird too, wasn't it?
It was weird.
She wanted to dress exactly like Marty. That was a big fight. She seemed very controlling. Like, this is what she wanted done, so he had to do it her way.
Beth had never met Paige until the wedding day.
Till the wedding day.
It's her husband's best friend.
Yeah.
And she hasn't met her. And I feel like that was intentional. Marty was keeping Paige away.
Yeah, okay, now, Blaine seemed a little suspicious of having a female on the groom's side.
Marty's best man
was Paige.
A woman.
Yes.
How did that sit with you?
Didn't sit great with me.
Where do you stand on this, Kateline? Would you stand for it or against it?
I'm for it.
Yeah.
I'm for gender on both sides. You can have a male bridesmaid. It's all bridal party.
Yeah, Holt had Danielle. She was going to be in my wedding party. Not best man. That's O-Dub. That's my cousin O-Dub. He's guaranteed best man. But Holt had Danielle was going to be in the wedding party, but she had scheduled. She couldn't fly out to California for the wedding, so she wasn't. And wife to be at the time was cool with it, but I feel like she was secretly relieved.
Oh, she was relieved
that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't like the unbalance of the photos that there's a lady over there. She's like, I'm going to have to say something about this every time we look at these stuff like that, I think. They're supposed to be your closest friends. And we know people that didn't have enough friends to fill that lineup. So it's weird to be sticky about it. And Kate, I'll let you know this. We know that you were at my wedding. If the missus and I ever renew our vows, guess where you'd be? In that wedding party! You'd be in there, dog. How you feel about that?
You and the missus. You and your dog.
Yeah, if we ever renew our vows.
Okay.
How's that feel? Is that cool?
That's great.
Okay, sweet. That's it.
If I get divorced and married to someone else, you probably won't be in the party because I probably won't have one.
Okay. Boy, that was a roller coaster right there. I was fishing for it. You almost gave it to me. And you said, nope, not happening.
No. Nope.
It's going to be a big week for the bachelor kid.
So this is when we're talking to Beth, and she's finding out about the sugar daddy stuff after the wedding. And she even point blank says, my friend's female friend is being treated better than the wife. That's when she got the car. That's when he's paying bills. Mm-hmm. And even Paige is running around town going, I've got Marty wrapped around my little finger. Right? She's bragging that she could do anything she wants with this sucker.
Now, she was claiming, though, to the cops that it was just, she had just given birth and Marty was having groceries delivered and stuff to help her, which you could argue, yeah, a new mom needs all the help she can get. But
I feel bad for Beth because she had a kid that really liked Marty, called him Marty Dad and stuff.
My son picked up on it right away too. He's like, that's my Marty Dad. That's what he called him.
And so she's like, this is great. And then it's like, oh wait, there's someone at the wedding I've never met that's his best man. What? And she's the one that insisted she wanted to look like the groom? What? So my heart goes out to Beth.
Because I'm like, why is the best friend getting treated better than the wife?
All right, so the cops bring Marty in, and they're cool with him at first. And this is when Marty's like, I don't know who killed Scott. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I'm just a supportive friend. And then they hit him with, Paige told us that you did this for her. And now he changes his tune, and he's like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Actually, and now that I think about it, Paige says that's why you did it. And then this is what Blaine calls literally the smoking gun. And I think it's as close as we're going to get.
That is the smoking gun, so to speak.
Almost exactly that.
Exactly.
Is the cops are like, you know how you were suspended from work? We found out why you were suspended. It's because you were caught with gun parts on your person. At work. They found it in his locker.
What did he do for a living?
I forget. It was it was a job that you would have a locker at, I believe. But the fact is, the cops tested this gun part that he was caught with. How's it turn out, Kate? Are the cops familiar with this gun barrel?
It turns out that it's a match for the murder weapon.
It's the murder weapon. I mean, this to me is when we talk later about not having good evidence. I'm like, he hid the gun that did the shooting, y'all. This seems like pretty good proof Marty did it. Don't you think?
And it's funny that he still has it all these months later. Why not get rid of that gun?
Yeah, and they say this later when they find more stuff, but Lopside Larry is like, yeah, he wasn't very smart because he kept all this stuff. Oh, what an idiot. So now, when they tell him about the gun barrel, and they tell him that Paige says you did it, they leave for a minute. Dude is almost puking in the trash. Are you thinking this is the puke of a guilty man? Are you flip-flopping? Where's your head at right now, Kate? Are you he's puking because he's going to jail?
Yeah, he's puking because he's realizing he's caught and that he's going to be spending the rest of his life in jail.
So he's about to puke, and they come in there and they're like, well, we're going to arrest you for murder. It's now November of 2014. You're going to jail. And I love this back and forth they have. And it's Lopside Larry doing the talking where they go we're going to arrest you right now. He goes, for what? And they're like, first-degree murder. It was all very kind of chill, but I loved it. I love they played it for us.
You're going to jail. What are you going to arrest me for? First-degree murder.
And that is what they did.
So now we got to go to trial, and all of Desiree's friends are like, why isn't Paige not involved? Pretty much everybody's theory is Paige is clearly, she's what ties this all together, right?
They think that there's no way that Paige didn't tell Marty to take out Des.
To do it, yeah.
And I can see why they would think that. But the fact that Paige got pregnant and had a baby with someone else and hadn't even been talking to Scott, it just it didn't seem likely. Now, if Paige had eventually moved in again with Scott and like became his wife, yeah, that would make more sense. But they were not talking anymore.
You know, it's kind of like, you remember the sleepover that you caught on TV recently?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Where the lady returned the mower and then the wife dies and then 8 years later they get married.
Right.
So if that's what Paige had done here, I would get it. But it's like they had both been with different people. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
I agree. It sounds like she should be involved. I think she was very much. I mean, it also make me think of Lady Macbeth a little.
Right.
Pulling the strings there. Another plug for the Patreon. I think she enjoyed the power she had over men and she wielded it in ways that unfortunately led to one of her subjects trying to like save her life somehow. Like I don't think she's to blame legally.
No.
Okay.
Well, they talked to her.
Absolutely. I mean, it's played for a bomb drop. I didn't really feel it was a bomb drop, but Blaine literally talks to Paige. What'd you think of her with Blaine?
So Paige, she talks about how she's a very different person now. This was a long time ago and she's grown up and matured and she has a family of her own.
She's
and
clean.
She knows that people think she had something to do with it, but she insists that she didn't. And for all the reasons we just said, I mean, she isn't with Scott. They don't even talk.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
It wasn't his baby.
And it's not her fault that Marty's crazy.
Yeah.
And while I think a lot of Dez's friends don't like Paige, I feel like that doesn't make her guilty.
No. I mean, I wouldn't like Paige either if I was friends with Dez.
I am thinking this psycho biatch squiggled her way into their life and created chaos.
But yeah, I don't think she's guilty. And I kind of agree with her when she tells Blaine, like, you know, I've been dealing with all this for years and I'm the one who called in Marty. It's like, I'm the person who did the right thing. And because of that, people think I'm involved, which I see her point. And you know what? She's pretty honest about stuff, except for when Blaine is reading back those texts about like her calling her names and all, like the chosen one. And she's like, you know what? I just don't remember.
I honestly don't remember that conversation.
Sorry, Blaine.
Honestly, though, she was so young and it was
and dealing with substance abuse of some kind. Like she was partying and stuff.
It was
too.
a different time in her life, and people say all sorts of manipulative things at different times, and I buy it. I mean, you talk to her and she is a completely different person.
Yeah, and I guess when we look at it like that, it's almost more proof that she didn't do it because it wasn't that important to her to remember those convos. Like those were just things she said when she was younger, not when she was younger and had a murder happen.
Right.
Right? Like, it kind of makes sense. Like, this is more support. Like, this was not the thing in her life you thought it was.
Totally.
Do you think this worked for her to go on Dateline? Do you think she should have said no, like old Scotty Pants?
No.
No hide nor hair, Scott.
I think she wanted to clear the air. She wanted to clear her name, and I probably would have done the same thing.
That was the big fight. I know that I was out of line with how I responded to her.
This is where it gets a little bit frustrating because the trial's about to happen and they're going, we don't have DNA. We don't have fingerprints. We don't have footprints. His phone wasn't there. We can't bust his alibi. But we have the literal murder weapon found on his person at work.
Yeah.
That sounds like enough to try for trial.
Yes.
That sounds like good enough. And let's also remember, during this whole process, Marty tries to convince his cellmate to kill Paige and her friend for $30,000.
He said, well, I don't mind giving you $20,000-$30,000 to make these two people disappear.
This is only number 2 of the 3 bombs. Guess what else happens? Marty's work calls and says, hey, you know, we were digging through some old trash of ours. We found an iPad, a laptop, and a receipt for a gun barrel that says Marty Gizmer on it. Like, what?
Why did he keep all of that stuff? If he had gotten rid of all of it immediately, he never would have been caught.
Yeah.
Even if he said, I did it, there's no evidence. You get rid of the gun and the stolen items, you're home free.
This is when the detectives put it together. It's like, oh, he must have done that first burglary.
Yeah.
The one 5 days before.
That's huge. Marty must have done the first burglary too.
But it's like, you're right. Like this dings him for that too. Like throw that onto the murder charge. He did an armed robbery or whatever.
He was scouting the place.
Yeah. And even the detective is like, he's not very bright. That's why that happens.
No.
And I'm like, you're right. This is dumb as hell.
And he didn't get rid of anything. He was not very bright to keep all this stuff involved in a burglary and a homicide.
But not as dumb as the prosecutors, because how this qualifies for an Alfred plea. Kate, walk me through this. I mean, I'm steamed at this.
I can't walk you through it because I was steamed as well.
They could have sunk him they were so quick to say, like, we just wanted to give him time for the family.
Prosecutor told us he'll at least get something.
Shut up, lazy ass. You don't want to spend the money on the trial, and you don't want to do the dirty work, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
All of those things, the finding the stolen items at his work, the trying to hire a hitman, finding the gun at his, those were all admissible, right? Like,
yeah.
What else would you need in a case? I know you don't have DNA, but you've got this stuff. It's pretty good.
You had wondered about Scott and Paige's involvement from the very beginning. Were you concerned that the defense might try and use that as an alternate theory?
Certainly.
I feel like they could have sunk him.
Yeah, but although, we don't know. We don't know the details. We don't know if maybe they just didn't feel like they had enough because in past cases that judge wanted more. I don't know. But
yeah, and it all comes down to a jury, like 12 people that you don't, like, I guess.
But he did an Alfred plea, and I was so bummed out about that.
Yeah, I feel like I hear about those way more now. It's like the first time I heard about it was West Memphis 3, and then Michael Peterson. But now I feel like it's used more or something. And I'm like, this should not have been on the table here. Because what happens is he gets 15 years. That dude's going to be out of prison in 4 years. 2029, he's walking out. This does not feel good for me and the fam. Like, this wasn't worth it. I would have taken my shot at the trial, basically.
Do you think he's going to go back to Beth?
We didn't get a confirmation from Beth that they got divorced, did we?
Maybe they did. They had to have.
I mean, I would hope that Beth would tell him to keep walking, like not even answer the door. That's my hope for Beth. Will he try and go back? Yeah, because he's a dweeb killer guy, and he sucks. I think he will be like, hey, let's start anew. Marty Dad is back, baby.
No.
So that happens in December of 2017, and we end on a super sad note. Desiree's mom had to sell that Chevelle, right?
Dez's mom had to sell her Chevy Chevelle to pay for her headstone. And I get it. Headstones are expensive. And this one was very ornate, so I'm sure it cost a pretty penny.
Yeah, I mean, Tweety Bird was on there too, so who knows about the rights they had to pay.
It had a dolphin, it had Tweety Bird, it had a photo.
Yeah, real, like a color photo along with a dolphin with roses in its mouth carved into a heart. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty penny.
That's expensive.
But she has to sell the car to pay for it, and then she dies before it's done.
Yeah.
And she's buried next to her.
Sad.
The end. Bummer, man.
It's a beautiful headstone. Yeah. She loved the dolphins.
And Scott, meanwhile, remarried, moved away. He's fine. He's out there protecting somebody else with his mentally resistance or whatever the hell.
But he's not a murderer.
No, but I could confidently say he sucks. I don't like Scott, okay?
About a 9 on the tension scale, Rube.
It's list time. What do you got for me, Kate?
Kate's unnamed list. Well, we have a military connection.
Huge one.
Scott was a military boy.
I'm what they call mentally resilient.
This wasn't really a small town. It was rural, but I didn't get the impression that it's central Washington. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the only hint at it being a small town is when the art teacher friend is going, that's when you really feel the size of this town.
That's where the tininess of this valley starts to really play in.
Yeah, but you're right. That's not enough for
It's not enough.
List making.
And I guess we could include the Chevelle and the Harley,
Got it.
although they weren't pieces of evidence, but they were such a big part of talking about who Des was. So we'll include that.
Yeah, and especially the motorcycle was at the funeral, and the Chevelle bought the headstone. It's like that. Guess what? Sadly, you're in. You made the list.
I guess that's it, though.
All right, on to
Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
One item for me. No signs of a struggle talk. We weren't even close. But the one thing is when Kayla, the friend, was confronted with the threesome, and she's like, this is what happens in movies.
It's like one of those crazy movies. The things you only see in movies.
Boom! You're on the list, Kayla. That's my biggest one, and my only one. You think I'm forgetting anything?
No.
Does this count fourth wall breaking wise when Blaine said things we can't say on TV?
And go on to call her some names that I can't repeat on TV.
Does that fall into a Kurt list item when they're talking about Dateline and stuff? Kayla says no. Don't even try it, Kurt.
No.
Don't even fucking try it.
No.
All right, well. Oh, next week, Holt Heads, we're gonna drop one of the Patreon apps on the main feed so you can get a taste of it and see what's what. We'll talk about that more when it drops. But so that means that next week there's gonna be 2 episodes coming out. Cool, Kate? How do you feel about that? You're stoked.
Stoked.
Now the noise started, so that's my sign to say, and on that note, oh, I'm Kurt. My God, And on that note, I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.